Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to the TwoMan Show. Happy Thursday. Happy beginning of March Madness. What a day. What a weekend. Sun's shining. It's a little bit chilly, but we'll get over that. This is episode 2 of the TwoMan Show. I'm Dominic, Richetti, joined alongside Nicholas Caruso, and we have a great show today. A little bit March Madness themes, a little bit Poor Things themed today. Firstly, we'll talk about Poor Things, which Nick and I both watched this week, a movie that that recently just won 4 Oscars. After that, in the spirit of March Madness, we'll be counting down our 5 favorite basketball movies of all time. And then lastly, with the theme of March, we've created a bracket from the top 250 IMDb movies that we have both watched. We have 32 of them in there, and we'll be filling out our brackets live here on air and picking a winner. If you want to follow along with that, you can follow us on Instagram at TwoMan Show WXVU. We have that bracket posted up on there. Go fill out your own bracket of those movies that you've seen. Going to be a lot of fun. I want to introduce my co-host for today, Nick Caruso. Nick, how are you? Lovely day, good weekend, great day. Probably the best day of the year, TBH.
Absolutely. Thanks for kicking us off, Dom. I'm doing great. I am psyched for our show today. We got a good one. We picked a fascinating movie to talk about this week in Poor Things.
Yeah.
And we have an exciting basketball-infused theme afterwards. If you're a basketball fan whatsoever, this weekend is your Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas all rolled in one.
Literally.
It tips off today. I could not be more pumped. Excuse my manners, Dom. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm stoked. Basically, the weekend for me now. I only have one class tomorrow. I was done at 2:15 today. I have this, and then basketball for the next 96 hours. So that's just going to be amazing. But I mean, let's jump right into things. We watched Poor Things this week. We're going to try to watch a movie a week and talk about it. One that recently came out. It's one of the weirdest. Let's just get right into it because there's so much to talk about with this movie. But firstly, it's probably one of the weirdest movies I've ever seen, and we've both seen Tusk, and this might be weirder than Tusk is.
Yeah, I don't know which. It's probably those two for the 2 weirdest movies I've ever seen. That's a really good question. But I definitely say this one has a little bit of an edge on Tusk in terms of how good it is.
Tusk is an interesting movie as it is. If anybody has never heard of Tusk, Tusk is an A24 movie directed by Kevin Smith where, I'm going to spoil it because I hope you never have to see it, but it's actually surprisingly similar to this movie in ways that I'm just realizing now. He turns a guy kidnaps another guy and turns him into a walrus made out of flesh. It's a whole thing. I don't want to
it's more of an
violate
experience.
I don't want to violate any radio rules here. I don't want to go into great detail. But it's an interesting movie. I mean, this is this movie's light years better than Tusk to start with, but I mean this movie won 4 Oscars, nominated for Best Picture. Emma Stone wins her second Best Actress award, and I mean if we want to start right there, because that's probably the biggest takeaway I had from, well, not biggest, but one of the biggest takeaways I had from this movie is Emma Stone. It was incredible. I mean, we talked about it last week, but it was the Best Actress award race was basically between her and Lily Gladstone from Killers of the Flower Moon. I think this was no question for me after watching Poor Things. She blew it away.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. I loved the performance from Gladstone.
Absolutely.
In Killers of the Flower Moon. But I had not seen this, so obviously I was expecting her to win just because how much buzz was around it.
Sure.
But after watching this, I mean, Emma Stone is phenomenal. It's such a unique performance too. It takes a really special actress to be able to do this. And I think that I would agree with the Academy. I think they gave the award to the right actress here. This was, her second win already. She's on a crazy career path.
Yeah, and
phenomenal actress.
I think she's 35 years old, maybe. I mean, La La Land's great. We both love La La Land. She's great in that, but I mean, the character she plays in this one is so much more, I don't know, difficult to play, I guess. I mean, La La Land, she's playing an actress, right? I mean, she's an actress, right? That can't be that difficult. But here, she's playing, just a little bit summary about the movie Poor Things. Basically, not that this is like a spoiler or anything, but she basically has the mind of an infant child, and she's kind of learning about the world and goes out into the world. Her creator, her father, sort of is this like Frankenstein-esque scientist who sort of does weird experiments. We'll get into like the world of Poor Things a little bit, and the whole sort of world that the director creates here. But he, like, in the opening scenes, you see like a dog with the pig head on it that he stitched back together. He's a sort of surgeon. It's very the Frankenstein inspiration is very obvious and very much there.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, this is basically not direct rip, but I'm sure it's like credits. Yeah, I mean, this was I was reading about it. It's based off a book that came out I think in the 90s or something. They were saying, but yeah, I mean, it's very similar to Frankenstein.
Yeah. definitely. Definitely like a mad scientist vibe from the creator.
He's a little bit more redeeming at the end, though.
Definitely,
you feel you like him a lot better than you like Dr. Frankenstein, for sure.
It takes a little bit to get there, though. I thought that the first like 40 minutes, I didn't know how to feel about him. I mean, just the whole she's calling him God throughout the whole movie. That's a little odd for me. To get
creator.
Yeah, I mean, I know why. It just feels a little bit odd during the movie, but definitely towards the end, redeemed himself. I mean, I thought it was a really interesting way to kind of like show how to see the world through the eyes of someone who is like in an adult body but with the mind of an infant. It's a really cool way to show that world, and I mean, that world is crazy. We can get into the costumes and set design. It's nuts.
Absolutely. And I mean, besides winning Emma Stone winning Best Actress, this one I'm pulling up right now, I think it was Best Costume Design, Best Set Decoration or something, and another one. I mean, the director of this movie, I don't want to mispronounce his name again. I mean, I had problems with the director of Dune last week. Yorgos, I believe it's Lanthimos. I don't know. But he creates this sort of, I mean, it's the real world, like she's existing on Earth, but it's a lot more darker. There's not as much light. It's based in Victoria and London for most of it, but you don't really see any daytime. A lot of it takes place indoors. When she is outside, the daylight is like a bluish, like a dark bluish, sort of like hue cloudiness. Yeah. It's not daytime. It's a very dark world, and you get why he does that, because he wants to. This whole thing's sort of a commentary on I mean, we have a whole character who talks about that humanity is just cruel beasts.
Yeah,
like that's sort of what the director I think is going for here, where he's sort of overemphasizing the cruelty of humanity, and that starts with Dr. Godwin, her creator, being deformed by his father. Yep. He has a whole history with his father, and the morals of everybody in this movie are terrible. I mean, no question. Yeah. Basically every man that Bella Baxter, who Emma Stone plays, is basically encountering the worst men ever. Mm-hmm. And keeping this as PG as possible. But this isn't a movie you can watch, in public ever. It's a movie you have to watch sort of secluded in your room. Yeah. Just because of some of there's a lot of graphic scenes, a lot of stuff that wouldn't fly on
Yeah, don't watch this with your parents.
Don't watch this with your parents. Don't watch it with probably anybody. It's guaranteed awkwardness if you watch it with somebody. But very, very entertaining. Talking a little bit more, set design, costumes, I thought they were excellent. I thought Willem Dafoe looked great. Mm-hmm. I loved every outfit she wore was really, Victorian and cool and unique. Yeah. And now that I have pulled up, Best Achievement in Makeup and Hairstyling, Emma Stone wins Best Actress in a Leading Role. And then they also won Best Achievement in Production Design and Best Achievement in Costume Design. And that was obvious. I mean, he created this whole unique world to put her in and to sort of overemphasize the cruelty of humanity.
Yeah, definitely. I thought that all 4 Oscar wins definitely deserved. Just like the way that they were able to change up the costumes from like scene to scene and still make them all so like they fit well together, but they look different. Yeah. It was a beautiful movie to watch.
Absolutely.
And then Emma Stone's performance just caps it off. But I thought that Willem Dafoe was also really good. He plays kind of that Green Goblin-esque.
He's great.
Kind of goofy guy that he's so good at playing.
Yes.
And just put him in his wheelhouse and he's gonna work. So I thought that I thought it was really well cast. I thought that Mark Ruffalo.
Ruffalo was great.
He was nominated for Best Supporting. I thought he was great in that. I thought it was really well cast, and I think this is Yorgos' best movie, I'd say.
So I haven't seen any of Yorgos' other movies. I know you've seen The Lobster. Is that the only other one you've seen?
No, I've seen Killing of Sacred Deer as well, which was definitely better than The Lobster.
And
I did not like
The Lobster.
No.
And I mean, this is a question from me to you, but do these movies sort of all have the same uniqueness, weird vibe? Like
yes,
it's hard to
yes,
compare. It's like a more darker Wes Anderson type vibe sort of thing.
That's like a really good way to describe it. Actually, They all function in a very similar way.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about that with some of the directors.
Directors,
last week,
Fincher
kind of
for
has
sure,
a way
sure.
to do that. But yeah, especially with Yorgos, and I think Wes is just the closest person to kind of create this unique setting and like way to tell the story.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's taken inspiration. And I mean, he's a very young director. He's up and coming. This is, I think, his 4th movie, maybe 3rd. I don't I would have to double
I don't
check on
know,
that,
but I
he's
feel like
gonna-
you've
excited.
been hearing about his movies for, I feel like a decade now, maybe. I mean, I haven't seen The Lobster, Killing a Sacred Deer, but, you hear good things about those movies all the time. But, yeah, I sort of got that vibe where it's like, yeah, you can definitely feel, the director's touch on this movie, the whole environment. I thought also was great was the pacing, and none of these scenes felt sort of unnecessary to me. Sort of like every scene mattered for the movie.
Yeah.
There wasn't a time where I was like, all right, let's get through it. And again, there's a lot of repetitive scenes that if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about when she's working. That you kind of, it's a lot to watch, but again, you kind of have to put it in context of the movie and what she's going through, which it's pretty hard to do because it's such a wild and unique circumstances. But I mean, extremely entertaining movie for me. I saw why it was basically second or third in terms of Best Picture. I thought it was something I'm happy I watched. I might watch it again. I thought it was really good. I thought it was very entertaining. I love period pieces too, like when they wear costumes, especially Victorian London's like we were just in London, just a fun fact. But Victorian London costume design is really, really fun. And they travel all over. They go to she goes on like a little trip. She goes to Paris. I think she's in Lisbon for a little bit. Egypt, Greece. There's a great scene in Egypt where she kind of sees I don't know if it's not slavery, but it's definitely impoverished people and sort of oppression. What she kind of wants to do is what her premise is that she's going through. Again, mind of an infant. Discovering the world for the first time. Kind of goes out on her own, accompanied by Mark Ruffalo, who sort of has immoral intentions with her. But it's very, very interesting to see how would an infant view the world with just with the ability to go see it and understand it a little bit more. Yeah,
definitely. And I thought that your point that like no scene felt necessary that's a great point. I definitely agree.
Yes.
And I talked a little bit how I've seen The Lobster. That was one of my biggest problems with The Lobster, actually, is I felt like there were a bunch of unnecessary scenes. So I like to see that Yorgos is kind of adapting, getting better. And I thought that it was really, really well paced. And just that story. I mean, it's so unique.
It's
hard to describe.
It's a uniqueness. It's a very unique take on sort of like the Frankenstein concept of except it's kind of the opposite because Frankenstein's monster technically is sort of he's ugly and he's a disgrace to the world he goes out into. She's like a beautiful girl who has the mind of an infant. So it's a really, really fun and different take on sort of the story of Frankenstein, I thought, which was kind of my final thoughts. I read Frankenstein last year. I don't think I've ever seen a Frankenstein movie, actually, which now I'm thinking about it is weird. But Frankenstein's one of the most popular characters in all of art. But I thought this was a really, really cool take, a really different perspective on that sort of legendary story.
Yeah,
that was kind of my final thoughts.
Definitely, yeah, I'd say good twist on a classic.
Yeah,
different angle, but I thought that it was a smart. I mean, it's tried and true with Frankenstein. This is a really interesting thing to watch. You're always going to be pulling viewers in this way, but just to flip it on its head like that and have it be showing the beauty in the world, and I guess they get to the oppression too.
Yeah.
But just from the eyes of not the ugly, it's definitely a cool twist.
Yeah, and then the last thing I want to say about Poor Things before we take a quick break and then get into our basketball movie talk, which is going to be super exciting. But underrated part of the movie for me was the way they shot it. I loved all the different cameras they used. They used the fisheye a lot, a lot of sort of close-ups and intense where you're really close to the character, which I thought was really, really cool. I thought the music was also really, really good. The score was really, really good at certain parts. The ending I thought was really good. I loved how they ended the movie too. Sort of the perfect way to end it, where she's kind of set on the right path. She's with the right people now, which is really, really fun. But Nick, just your final thoughts.
Yeah, I thought that it wraps up really, really nicely. Definitely satisfying in the end, I'd say, after that journey, without spoiling too much. But yeah, I thought great performances from the cast, and just really, I agree with the different camera angles. I always love when directors are able to show their talent through different ways of filming. So that was cool, and just cast, set design, it's great. Definitely.
It was a great movie. Definitely,
see
yeah, go see it. It's. I watched it on Hulu. I think you watched it on Hulu too. It's out on Hulu. I think it's supposed to be out on Disney soon too. But definitely go see it. It was great. Just watch it even if you're not into like this weird, sort of drama, comedy, Frankenstein thing. Emma Stone's magnificent in it, so go watch it for her. But we're gonna take a quick break here on V89.1 The Roar. We'll be back, talk a little bit about our top 5 favorite basketball movies of all time. Followed by, I'm very excited for this bracket I have here in front of me. And just a reminding, go to our Instagram at the Two-Man Show, WXVU, and go see the bracket and go fill it out because it's going to be really fun. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back in a minute and a half. Thanks. Welcome back to the Two-Man Show here on V89.1 The Roar. I'm Dominic Richetti, joined alongside Nick Caruso, and we just talked about poor things for a little bit, and now we're going to get into our 5 favorite basketball movies in the spirit of March Madness, which just, it's got started 2 days ago, but really, the madness really starts today. A lot of stuff going on already. Michigan State already beat Mississippi State, but I knew that was going to happen, right? But back to our 5 favorite movies. So right off the bat, let's start with 5. So let's start with our 5. Let's start with I have honorable mentions. You also have honorable mentions. Let's start with honorable mentions. Actually, no, let's start with 5, and then we'll do honorable mentions later. So at my number 5, I'll talk about my number 5. Mm-hmm. I have High School Musical, which is, I don't think this is debatable. This is definitely a basketball movie.
Yep.
Basketball. Oh, yeah. He's conflicted between basketball and music the entire time. Mm-hmm. There's no question it's a basketball movie. It's great. I think they win the state championship. Maybe that's in the 3rd one. I don't know. But I love that movie. There's great basketball in it. Chad takes a charge at one point. This might be the 3rd one too. I don't remember which one. I don't remember which basketball scene's happening. Which one? Chad takes a charge and he gets up and jumps up. It's great. Rocket Man hits a game winner. That's in 3. I know that. Mm-hmm. I'm changing my 5 just to High School Musical franchise because that all counts for me. Yeah. That's all the same. Yeah. But yeah, that's a great basketball movie. It shows the duality of man between wanting to sing and dance and also ball out with your boys. It's a great movie. Have you seen High School Musical, and what are your thoughts on it? Of
course I've seen High School Musical.
And basketball movie?
Oh, absolutely a basketball movie. It's at least half, so I don't think I'd argue. It rounds up at the very least.
Thank you.
But,
let me hear your 5.
Yeah, so I honestly have not gone back and rewatched High School Musical in a long time. I got to get back to doing that.
I watched them all 3 of them 2 summers ago maybe, and they still hold up.
Yep.
So glad they all. They all still hold up.
Yeah, they were popular for a reason. Then they're not going to not be good now, yeah, it's also just nostalgia got to see that.
Oh, they're great.
Come on.
Plus, Zac Efron's doing cool stuff now. Vanessa Hudgens is doing cool stuff now.
Everyone's on to bigger and better things. Or I don't know about
just those 2 are. I
don't know about better.
I don't know what Corbin Blue's up to. I'm sure he's rocking out somewhere.
He's probably making the 7th one.
You're number 5.
All right, so in number 5, I have kind of a similar childhood classic here, but I gotta go with Air Bud.
Air Bud. Air Bud is the best.
Air Bud's so good. How do you not like Air Bud? It's a dog that plays basketball, and he's so good. Come on.
I don't know about you, but my favorite part of Air Bud is that he lures the dog to the basketball court by leaving out pudding.
Yeah.
I wanted to eat that pudding so bad.
I would have been on that basketball court. He was luring me with pudding, I'll tell you that. But yeah, Air Bud is honestly, it just holds a special place in my heart because I probably watched that movie 30 times when I was a kid. We had my family had the disc on Blu-ray.
What?
Oh yeah, of course. So we were always putting that in a long car ride. We have a CD player or a DVD player in the car. Always watching Air Bud. Come on.
Air Bud rocks because I don't remember. Is it in the game or is it halftime where he shoots he throws it off Air Bud's nose?
Yes. Yep. He hits an alley-oop off his snout. It's nuts.
Is that in the game or is it a halftime thing? Because if it's in the game, that's a lot more.
No, that's in the game.
Is that?
It's
they let Air Bud suit up. I don't remember.
They needed Air Bud to suit up. Honestly, I do kind of forget a little bit of the points. This is just there in my heart. I gotta put it up. I'm not gonna have it as an honorable mention. Don't even care.
I have it. So I have. I'll mention. We have honorable mentions. I have 5 honorable mentions, but I just want to mention Air Bud's in my honorable mentions. Air Bud is the best.
Yeah.
That's. It's so good.
Yep.
It's and then because the other ones I think I saw when he's playing soccer too. That one stinks.
I don't know if I saw that one. I definitely saw Space Bud when he goes to space.
He goes to.
Yeah.
I didn't know he went to space.
He's an astronaut. He's doing it all. He's gonna be president next.
Shout out to Air Bud. Okay, that was Nick's number 5. My number 5 was High School Musical. Moving on to my number 4. I have Air at number 4, and I don't. We're gonna have to jump around a little bit because you have Air at number 2.
Yeah,
so we'll just talk about Air in context of we both love Air.
Yeah.
That just came out this past summer. I saw it with my entire family. I really enjoyed it. My dad really enjoyed it, and I think my mom enjoyed it. My sister, I don't know if she liked it, but I liked Air. It was extremely cool story. It's also fun just to see the thought process behind all that too. I mean, I don't know how fictionalized it all was, but you know, it's cool to see like Nike like not have the most money in the world and sort of have to pick one guy and take a gamble on Michael Jordan. And I mean, shout out to his mom too for getting like deals done. Again, who knows how true that is, but I mean, I thought that was great.
Yeah, no, I mean, I have Air too, so I really enjoyed Air. I thought that it was really awesome to see Ben Affleck as Phil Knight. He's just living his best life. I mean, he's like putting his shoes on the table, or putting his feet on the table, no shoes, no nothing.
Yeah.
He's just doing what he wants to do, and he's, I mean, phenomenal in it. And I thought that, I mean, obviously they're given this great story with Michael Jordan, you know, first athlete to like own part of the brand in the shoe deal. Really, really smart. And yeah, he just kind of revolutionized the way that, you know, athletes market themselves and try to pursue their own financial interests through like on and off the court, right? This has never been done before. And you see it is really weird to see Nike not at the top because you see like Converse.
I see Converse and like the Germans from Adidas come in, right?
And
it's great.
Like the way that they talk about Converse too is they're like, oh, we don't really have to make a pitch. We're Converse.
Yeah.
If that happened now, it's
like
all right,
okay.
Okay, grandpa.
It is crazy too because I mean, I don't think Converse even has put out a basketball shoe in the past 20 years. I mean, you don't see the only Converse you see are like the ones they were wearing, the All-Stars, but I mean, you'll never see anybody hooping those anymore.
No. I mean, you still people wear them, but not on the court.
Not on the court, no. Never.
Destroyed.
Yeah. Terrible.
It's made of like canvas.
I also think just less things about Air. My favorite part about Air, I think the whole cast was great, and they were all funny. The Chris Messina plays David Falk, who I believe is he's somebody's lawyer.
Yes.
I forget who, but he's great. And then Chris Tucker is part of the Nike team, and he's great. He's hilarious. Yeah. And then Jason Bateman's also amazing. And then the guy who designs the shoe,
oh my God,
I think he died in real life years later, and they gave a nice credit to him at the end. But I thought the cast was funny. They worked well together, and it really made a movie about a business deal can be kind of bland at times, and I thought they made it very, very exciting and very, very funny.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Very cohesive movie. The cast kind of pulled everything together, and I mean, they just have great banter throughout the entire movie. It's hilarious.
It's great.
And when
yes.
I mean, when they're just talking,
Matt Damon's great in it.
Yeah. Oh my God. And yeah, just seeing. I mean, we didn't even mention the fact that Damon and Affleck are back together.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
I mean, that's just a given at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, great movie. So that was my number 2. Dom's number 4.
That was my number 4.
Let's go to. All right. Yeah. Let's take a little bit of a swing here. My number 4 is The Basketball Diaries, which is a very different.
Very different. I've never seen Basketball Diaries. I'm familiar with it though. Let's talk about it.
Basketball Diaries is good. I mean, honestly, like what's dragging that movie up here is just Leo is so phenomenal, and he's like 16 years old. The performance he gives in this is ridiculous. It's like, so just a brief description of the movie a little bit. He's playing like a high school basketball player who's like best in New York City, and he gets hooked on drugs, and it just goes further and further down, and it's just powerful to watch. I mean, it is really, really impressive. Also, they have I think Mark Wahlberg is in this,
and I think Brendan Fraser's in it too.
But it's like they're like very, very young.
Yeah,
and
that's fun though when that happens. Like Dip Out Society.
No, it's awesome. But a very different movie, more dark, sad, definitely. But I would recommend going to watch that just to see how good Leo is when he's that young.
Yeah, that's great. So far, my 5 High School Musical franchise, my 4 Air. We'll move on to my 3 because Nick has that in his honorable mentions too. I don't know how this isn't in your top 5. I mean, this is the classic of all classics. I have Space Jam at 3. Space Jam for me, again, we're definitely the generation after Space Jam, no doubt in my mind. But I used to go to a basketball camp every year, and we would do in the morning we would have from 9 a.m. to noon different stations, like a layup station, 3-point station, whatever. One of the stations was just called Rest, and you would get water and just watch Space Jam. And this was for a decade. I did this, and it didn't change the entire decade. It was you're getting water and watching Space Jam. So I've seen Space Jam probably, I don't know, 20 times in my lifetime. It hits every time.
What if I told you I have the exact same story? I went to a basketball camp.
Is it all ball?
Hmm?
That's the basketball camp I went to.
No, it's
but is it from you?
Pelham Rec. Yeah.
But Was it rest station? You were watching Space Jam?
No, just so we had it like an hour for lunch in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
Every single time.
Space Jam.
You know what the best part was? It's always the same hour. Never changed. So we always watched the first hour of the movie.
We would just get random parts.
Shout out Pat Mancuso, always putting that on. But yeah, I mean, if I'm being serious, Space Jam probably edges out Air Bud, but I can't leave
Air Bud's
Air Bud
so
off
good,
the list.
though.
I can't leave it off the list. But yeah, Space Jam is just a classic. I've probably seen that and Air Bud. I've probably seen it combined 100 times. Honestly, it's close if it's not that.
Yeah, when I was assembling this list, I don't know if you felt the same thing. It's a very good. I mean, yours is a little different because you have like Basketball Diaries and White Men Can't Jump is a little bit different, but like a lot of these are like movies I've watched in the past year or like I watched when I was like 7. Like there's no in between. But that was my number 3, Space Jam. Talk about your number 3.
Yeah, I got White Man Can't Jump at number 3, which is just a classic. Oh, well, just to specify, the old one.
I didn't even know there was a new one until I was looking it up today, and it's Drewski and Jack Harlow. Or Drewski's in it, but
yes,
Jack Harlow.
Jack Harlow.
I forget the other guy.
Yeah, it came out on Hulu, I think, last summer, and I actually was inspired to go back and watch the original when this was coming out.
Yeah.
And then I heard the one that came out was just not close to as good, so I didn't even bother. But yeah, it's
Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes, so you can't compete with.
I mean, come on, like it's a great cast, really interesting story. I mean, it's just a classic. Honestly, it's a great vibe movie too.
Yeah, summer.
Nice day. Yeah, of course. Nice day out in the summer. Want to play some basketball.
LA
afterwards, throw that on.
Yeah. Are they in LA?
Oh,
yeah. I've never seen it. I've never seen it, but it seems like a great vibe movie.
Ball, playground courts of LA, like right on the beach too.
Yeah.
It is definitely a vibe.
It sounds like a perfect like summer movie.
Oh yeah. It's phenomenal.
I gotta watch it. I haven't seen it, but I mean I've only heard great things. And when I was doing like something on my list, I looked up just to get some refresh my memory. I was looking up like best basketball movies of all time, and this is like always in the top 2. White Man Can't Jump is always in the top 2.
Definitely has a cult following too.
Yeah.
Its fans love that movie.
Talk about cult following. My number 2 is fantastic.
Yeah, let's get to your number 2.
My number 2 is I wanted to put it at 1 so bad, but I thought that'd be too childish. Like Mike is fantastic. It's Lil Bow Wow plays an orphan kid who's like 12 years old, and he finds Michael Jordan shoes and puts them on and gets Michael Jordan's abilities. Thunderstruck basically stole his whole premise 20 years later, but Like Mike is great. He eventually gets called onto the court at halftime to play like a fictional like basketball player that's supposed to be great. It's a famous actor. I forget who it is, but to play him one-on-one, and he just like dunks. He's like 4'8" and just rises up and dunks over. It's great. He gets signed anyway. He signs to a fictional NBA team, gets a contract, and takes them to like I don't know the playoffs and stuff. But the best part of this movie is like the actual NBA players in it. Like Allen Iverson's in it, Vince Carter's in it, Tracy McGrady's in it. Like they have just cool players are in it. And again, this is what I've seen like Mike probably a handful of times in my life. Lil Bow Wow raps at the end too. It's such a fun movie. Young Jesse Plemons plays like a child villain in it. I mean, if you haven't seen Like Mike, you got to go watch it. It's short. I think it's like an hour and 20 minutes, and it rocks. It's the best movie ever. It's a kid with the abilities of Michael Jordan. And Thunderstruck, if you've seen Thunderstruck, that came out like 5-6 years ago. It's the same premise except it's like a high schooler that gets Kevin Durant's abilities. Not as fun. This is a 12-year-old dunking against Allen Iverson. I mean, it's the most outrageous and hilarious concept ever. It's a must-watch.
Yeah, it also probably gave us one of the most iconic songs from a movie.
Oh yeah,
I'm playing
basketball.
I mean,
it's great.
Yeah,
and it's such a. And I'm a little bit sad that Lil Bow Wow's career didn't take off from this. I mean, he was in Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, plays an excellent character in that. So. We'll do a Fast and Furious episode down the line. I've seen them all, and I love them all. I know my co-host feels differently about them.
Well, I've never seen a single Fast and Furious, so we might have to put that further down.
I'll make you watch them over the summer or something. But yeah, shout out to Lil Bow Wow. Let's hear your number 2.
We
did your number 2. Air's your number 2.
So we can move on right to my one.
You can do your one. Go ahead.
I have Uncut Gems as my number 1,
which is the. Yeah.
I mean, definitely my favorite movie on this list by a far margin. Uncut Gems is one of my favorite movies. It's firmly in my top 100. And it's not purely a basketball movie like some of these other ones. It's more about gambling and betting, but I mean, it's all on
great
the
movie
NBA.
though.
And Adam Sandler gives like one of the most shocking for the first time you watch it performances I've ever seen.
Oh my God,
because,
yeah.
I mean, if you've only seen this guy and Happy Gilmore and Billy Madison, then you don't even know who's on the screen. That's my boy. Things like that.
He's great.
Yeah, I mean, can't believe it's the same guy that did Jack and Jill after that.
Jack and Jill, also a movie I saw in theaters with my entire family.
Wow.
Al Pacino does Dunkachino dance in that, and I'll always remember that.
Yeah, it's
and
burned in my brain.
I wish I didn't, but I did. But yeah, I have Uncut Gems in my honorable mentions just because I didn't know. It's definitely a basketball movie, but it doesn't feel right to. It's so much bigger than a basketball movie. You know what I mean? But it's definitely a basketball movie. Do you know? You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I actually didn't even have it on the list until I saw it in your honorable mentions, and I was like, oh. Yeah,
because Kevin Garnett's basically like the third most important character, and it's the whole last 20 minutes revolve around a basketball game, and the last 20 minutes are phenomenal.
I mean, like the last 30 minutes of Uncut Gems is honestly some of the it's like one of the best 30-minute segments of a movie I've ever seen in my entire life.
It's great.
Their ability to build suspense is not like I've ever seen before.
Safdie brothers, right? And then I haven't seen Good Time, but
I've seen Good Time,
and it's similar. Right?
They do it better in Uncut Gems. I won't lie, but yeah, definitely those guys definitely like playing up suspense. We kind of talked a little bit last week about Nolan with Time, a little bit similar. They're always doing that, but yeah, wow. I mean, that ending, I'm not going to say anything, but go watch that.
What an ending.
You're going to sit for like 20 minutes just staring at your screen.
It's great. It's a great movie. And then I'll round it off. My number one is Coach Carter. Coach Carter is a classic. Samuel L. Jackson plays like a no-nonsense basketball coach at a projects high school where he's sort of it's very cliche and like the most obvious story ever, but I do really, really like it. Again, just gives us one of like the best scenes in sports movies, in my opinion. I'm just gonna say what happens. I don't really care. But he locks down the gym, and then he goes in there because they broke in and they're just doing homework, and one of the kids just recites like Maya Angelou. It's a great movie. It's very. I mean, most of these basketball movies are very cliche, but I love Coach Carter. It's always on cable too. If you have cable, it's probably on right now. Go watch it after the show. But Coach Carter rocks. Samuel L. Jackson's great in it. Channing Tatum's in it. I don't know why, but he is in it. He's great. It's a fun movie with a great ending. It is like the most cliche basketball movie of all time, but I kind of got a love for that a little bit. You've never seen Coach Carter?
I've never seen Coach Carter actually, but I do know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, I hear the similarities between.
If you can guess, they win at the end.
Yeah, I mean, just sports movies kind of have a script that a lot of them follow. That's also kind of why I liked putting Uncut Gems as my favorite. It's so different. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I definitely have to go back and watch that just to see myself. But I can imagine I would enjoy it.
Yeah.
Just a little. I had a couple honorable mentions we didn't get to. Hustle came out last year.
Yeah, Hustle's on my list, and
really
that's all Philly area, so obviously I love Hustle. But
enjoyed that. Anthony Edwards in that. He's funny. He's good. And then just Hoosiers too, because I feel like a list without Hoosiers on it.
Never seen it.
Wow. Well,
you'll watch Coach Carter. I'll watch Hoosiers.
Sounds good. I'm actually not the biggest Hoosiers fan, but just it felt wrong not putting it on a list of favorite basketball movies. Because it's just such, it's like the biggest classic for basketball movies.
It's like the basketball movie.
Yeah, you ask like your dad, what's the basketball?
My dad loves Hoosiers.
Yeah, my dad loves Hoosiers.
I think he does.
Everyone's dad loves Hoosiers. Yeah, come on.
Yeah, but yeah, great honorable mentions. Your honorable mentions.
Have any mentions we didn't get to?
I'll just mention them. I have Hustle in my honorable mentions. I have Uncut Gems as well, just because I didn't know, so I had to rate that. And then I have Thunderstruck, basically a direct ripoff of Like Mike, but just because Like Mike is so good, Thunderstruck's also pretty decent. I have Air Bud in my honorable mentions. I really wanted to put it in there, but I couldn't find a spot for it. And then I also have Love and Basketball. Love and Basketball is just a little bit different story, but it is cool. They both end up playing basketball at like UCLA and USC. Again, it's like LA area. It's a fun movie. A little bit of a classic for me too. But those are my honorable mentions. So just once again, we'll state our top 5. So for me, starting from the top, Coach Carter is my 1, then Like Mike, Space Jam, Air, and High School Musical. For Nick,
I have Uncut Gems at 1, followed by Air, White Men Can't Jump at 3, The Basketball Diaries, and Air Bud rounding out the top 5.
All right, we're going to take a quick break here on V89.1 The Roar, but coming up after this break, we have a great segment. Once again, we've made a bracket of the top 32 of the top 250 IMDb movies. There are 32 movies that Nick and I have both seen, so we're going to go through this bracket one by one. If you want to see this bracket and follow along, it's right posted on our Instagram at the TwoMan Show on TwoMan Show WXVU on Instagram. So follow along there, play along, do your winners. They're all seated correctly. I worked hard on this. It's really, really fun. It's going to be thank you. It's going to be a really, really fun time. So join us right after this break. TwoMan Show here on WXVU on V89.1 The Roar. I'm Dominic Richetti, joined alongside Nicholas Caruso. And so far, we've talked about Poor Things, the 4 Oscar winner recently. And then we also just counted down our top 5 favorite basketball movies of all time in the spirit of March Madness. And continuing in the spirit of March Madness, we have a great segment right now. We are going to fill out a bracket. It has 32 of the top 250 movies listed by IMDb. So if you're mad that your movie's not on here, that's for IMDb, not for me. I just took it right off their website. And just another note, these are all movies that Nick and I have both seen. So like Schindler's List isn't on here because we haven't seen it. I'm trying to think of another one. 12 Angry Men's not on here because I don't.
Ooh,
you've seen it, right? I haven't seen it.
Yep.
I've never seen 12 Angry Men. So there are a few that aren't on here.
It's a good collection, though.
It's a very good collection. Yep. It's very, very good. So just last time, get that up on your, get it up on your phone or your computer if you want to follow along. It's gonna be fun. But I think we should start in the top left, the 1 verse 16 here.
Yeah, let's just dive right in.
And I think in the spirit of time, we won't go hugely into depth of how much we love these movies. Just maybe 1 or 2 sentence blurb about why we're picking this winner. First one is very, very easy for me.
Me too.
It's the one of this whole tournament is The Shawshank Redemption.
It's got to be.
Which is, I mean, one of, if not the greatest movie of all time, the most rewatchable movie of all time, one of the best written movies of all time, with the best ending of all time. I mean, it is the perfect movie.
Yeah, if you were gonna tell someone who's never seen a movie before, or show a movie to somebody who's never seen a movie before, I would show them Shawshank Redemption. I think it's kind of the definition of what makes a classic. But yeah.
I didn't mention the 16 seed. Yeah, I didn't even mention
the Lost Ark, which is also
Raiders.
A classic.
Raiders is great.
Yeah, because that's going to happen with
it's
this. The
116
16 seeds are. They're all insane.
The highest movie in terms of IMDb's list, I think is it's 58. It's actually Memento. Memento was the last one to make it in. Memento is a 16 seed in the other side of the bracket. Is it not?
Well, I actually think it's Raiders at 60.
Oh, it is Raiders at 60.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It is Raiders at 60. Raiders at 60 is the last one to make it in, then Memento at 58.
Yep.
But Raiders is it at 60.
Let's go right into the 8 versus 9 here.
I mean, the 8 versus 9 is...
That's a tough matchup.
I think you... I know you have Green Mile here, but I think we can. Do you want to keep the same bracket, or do you want to do different brackets?
Oh, I'm doing a different bracket.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go to One for Life just because Green Mile is like 4.5 hours long. But both movies are great. It's One for Life for me is again Christmas classic. I watched it in like theology class twice before. I love it. It's One for Life.
I do love that movie.
Green Mile. Talk about why you chose Green Mile.
Green Mile is just. So it is like 3.5 hours long. So you gotta, get comfortable. But once you do, that is a great story. And even though it's that long, I feel like it doesn't really drag that much, which is a really good measure of how good a long movie is, in my opinion. Tom Hanks is fantastic, great story, really uplifting. And yeah, not much else to say about Green Mile.
Yeah, and what's the guy that plays the lead's name? He's dead. Oh, what's his name? I can't think, but he's also great. John Candy is his name.
That's the character, right?
Oh yeah, John Candy's the character, but the guy who plays him.
I forget the name.
Yeah, I forget, but they're both great in it. Okay, moving on. That was the 8 versus 9. It's One for Life. The 9 seed was the Green Mile. Moving on to the 5-12 matchup. This is a really good one.
Yeah, we got Inception.
Upset potential here
versus The Lion King.
Yes,
which is a hard one.
This is hard.
Pulling on my heartstrings.
And we're both big Nolan guys, but The Lion King is The Lion King.
Yeah,
it's hard. It's a hard matchup. I think I'm gonna stick with my guy though.
You're going to stick with Nolan?
I'm going to stay with Nolan, go
Me
Inception.
Too. I am too, and I was trying to find any reason.
Quinn Burns shaking his head in the corner.
I really wanted the Lion King to pull through here. It's hard to eliminate that in the first round.
It's a rough 5 seed to face. Because there's teams in this bracket that Lion King could beat that are higher seeded, but
absolutely
Inception is so good.
Yeah,
we're big Nolan guys. We talked about it last week, but we're just such big Nolan guys. And that's a great 5-12 game down to the wire. Absolutely.
But just at the end of the day, Inception is not losing in the first round to most. Like there's a few exceptions, but they would have a hard time struggling, like finding a loss in the first round. Our 4 versus 13 is another exciting matchup. Fight Club versus American History X. Fight Club at the 4. Dom, what do you have here?
I'm going Fight Club. I love Fincher, but we both watched American History X on the flight to Munich or to London.
To Munich.
To Munich. So we watched it on a plane this past fall, and it was American History X is really, really good.
It's a great
movie,
great story. Honestly, would not really recommend watching it on a plane.
No.
A little bit got some weird looks.
Bit of research movies for you watching in public.
But I also am gonna go with Fight Club here. I'm a huge Fincher fan, and Fight Club is definitely in my top 3 for Fincher. It's
so good. The ending's perfect too.
Right. And I also feel like it has such great inspiration on a lot of movies that came after it.
Yeah, and the commentary of like consumer culture and all that is great.
Yep. So similar to Inception, it's Fight Club's going to struggle to lose in the first round.
Yeah, it's great. Let's go to. I want to hear you out on this because this is a really interesting matchup. This is like it's like Kentucky versus like the New Kids on the Block. So this is Goodfellas at the 6th seed is facing off against the new Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which IMDb has the 35th best movie of all time according to them. That's a good matchup. As much as I want to say Spider-Man here, it's absolutely Goodfellas, right?
Yeah, I mean,
I know I
went over last week. Yeah. That's my favorite movie of all time. Goodfellas is not losing Across the Spider-Verse, despite how good that movie is. Really phenomenal. Definitely go see that if you haven't.
It's a beautiful movie, too.
Yeah, and I just really respect what they're doing with the... I mean, there's been so many Spider-Man...
animation.
like, series that have come
design.
out recently.
This one's so unique.
Yeah, and they're, like, it's... I mean, it's the 4th Spider-Man franchise to come out since, like, 2000, and they're still able to find, like, a unique way to do it. Phenomenal. Just like don't take it being animated to believe it's not up here. It's up here. It's up here.
So I actually just briefly I like the first Into the Spider-Verse better than Across the Spider-Verse. I don't know why, but I have given out like 10 5-stars on Letterboxd just because I like to be stingy. I don't know why, but this one had a 4.5, and the other one had a 5. So again, these are both incredible movies, both of them in the series.
Yep.
But IMDb has this one a little bit higher. But yep, I'm going Goodfellas there too.
Yep. At the end of the day, Goodfellas is moving on.
Okay.
Let's
314
here though.
Here we go. I got a lot to say about 314.
I do too. Pulp Fiction at the 3, The Prestige at the 14.
Shout out to Michael Blake. Shout out to Michael Blake.
Shout out to Michael Blake. Huge Prestige fan.
Huge Prestige fan.
Upset alert. I have the Prestige moving on here.
Definitely. I do too. I do too. I've only seen Pulp Fiction once, and I didn't love it. I know I have to rewatch it because again, Pulp Fiction IMDb had number 8 overall. We have it as a 3 seed in this bracket, but I mean, Pulp Fiction, of course, is very good, very entertaining movie. But we're such Nolan guys. Yeah. We're just such Nolan guys, and the Prestige comes in at number 43 overall, 14 seed in this bracket. But yeah, I have an upset there too. I'm picking the Prestige over Pulp Fiction. I mean, it's Coach K versus Roy Williams here. It's great.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, most people love Pulp Fiction, favorite Tarantino for most, but I'm not in the same boat.
I'm not either.
Because I do love a lot of Tarantino movies.
I do too.
This is not
They're all
in
good.
my top 3.
Yeah.
But again, it's a classic. You can't not like Pulp Fiction. I'm just not as high as some other people are. So yeah, 14 seed takes down the 3.
Yes. Really good matchup there. Mm-hmm. Now, this might be the best matchup on the side of the bracket. And this was done not on purpose. This is how the math added up. The 7 seed is 7, another Fincher, 20th overall by IMDb, and that's facing number 10, Back to the Future.
Yep. This is...
Wow.
I mean, so...
That's hard.
So I'll just say I'm going to have to put 7 as the winner here, but I don't want to.
I'm putting Back to the Future.
I fully respect that. I mean, Back to the Future holds a special place in my heart.
Mine
That's
too.
One of my family's favorite movies to watch together.
It's perfect.
Yep. But 7 is... I think 7's my favorite Fincher. And I think I just have to have them move on here.
I like Fight Club better than 7, but I mean, it's like 1A, 1B for me. But I mean, Back to the Future is... It hits every time. It's so enjoyable.
Yeah.
Michael J. Fox is great. Doc's great in it. I forget the actor who plays him. He's great in it. It's just the whole story is great. I mean, even Biff's great. The end. I mean, I don't know about your family, but like we'll quote lines from it all the time. Just walking around the house. We have a neighbor named Marty.
Oh, that's awesome.
So like, yeah, we're always referring to Marty for stuff. But I mean, Back to the Future is fantastic.
Yeah, I wanted to put Back to the Future in the second round. I can't have it get past 7, but I really wanted to.
If I had more time, I would have made a 64-team bracket, and it would have been a lot more fun. But we don't have 4 hours.
Yeah, we would. Yeah, we'd be here for until tomorrow if we had that.
If we had,
in that idea, let's move on to the 2 versus 15. Which I mean, okay, so the 2 here, Dark Knight. I mean, there's not much else to say about the Dark Knight, but the 15. Django Unchained kind of gets screwed here, I think.
Yeah, it stinks because I like Django Unchained better than Pulp Fiction, just because we were talking about it a little bit. But I mean, The Dark Knight is number 3 overall according to IMDb. This is a 2 seed in our bracket, but I mean, The Dark Knight is fantastic. It's intense. It's great casting. You can't look away. I mean, probably one of the best, if not the best, acting performers of all time from Heath Ledger as the Joker. Mm-hmm. I mean, we could have 5 hours to talk about The Dark Knight, but I mean, without question, Dark Knight moves on for me.
Same for me. Django.
Nolan will lose eventually, I promise.
He will. Django, though, is a phenomenal movie. I mean, again, we talk about performances. And, obviously Heath Ledger, but Fox is great as Django.
Christoph Waltz, yeah.
Yes, he is phenomenal in that role. I mean, he won two supporting
back-to-backs,
actors.
right? Yeah.
Not
or
back-to-back Oscars, but back-to-back movies
for
him. Yeah. I mean, put him and Tarantino together, and they're not going to miss.
Yeah.
But they just come up a little bit short versus one of the best movies of all time.
Oh,
The Dark Knight. It's
absolutely.
No shame
and
to Django, but
yeah, I think Dark Knight's sandwiched in between the two Godfathers, just to give some context of how good the Dark Knight is. So.
Yep.
Dark Knight moves on for both Nick and I here. Okay,
Speaking of the
so
Godfathers,
switching sides to their side of the bracket.
Yep,
the one seed on that side is the Godfather.
Yeah, and that takes on Memento, which is going to kill me to have lose in the first round.
Yes,
Memento,
it is. Yes,
if
it
there
is.
was ever a 16 seed to upset, it's them.
Yeah.
But, you can't pick against the Godfather. I also like the first better than the second, which I know some. Actually, I feel like most people are pretty split on that. I'd say more people like the second than the first if they had to choose, but. I mean, the original Godfather is so good. I don't know if
the best.
Like we talked about,
if
there's one movie that's better than Shawshank, it's probably this.
Yeah.
Right. So.
And it's known, but I mean, the Godfather every scene is like fantastic.
Yeah.
Every single scene, like just off the top of my head, like the hospital, the baptism, the oranges, like you know what I'm talking about, like just I mean, it's. Every scene is so special and so good.
And that's a great point because they have those iconic scenes, and at the same time, just like the ones where they're sitting around the table,
it's
having
great.
like
dinner, and Michael's left by himself at the table. It's
or
so
like
good.
When Curly explodes. Oh my god, it's just
take
phenomenal.
the gun, like
every single scene.
It's
characters too. Luca Brasi. I mean,
cast is great too.
Time.
I mean, Marlon Brando, young Al Pacino, James Caan's great in it.
Not much else to say. It's The Godfather. It's studied
The Godfather.
in pretty much probably every film school for a reason.
It's the best.
Right.
Okay.
8-9 here is an interesting matchup. We have Silence of the Lambs.
Before we move on, Nolan lost. Nolan lost. Memento loses.
I want
to point that out. Keep going.
There we go. Silence of the Lambs here at the 8 seed versus Saving Private Ryan at the 9 seed. This for me is kind of clearly Silence of the Lambs. Yeah, is that same for you?
I'm not a big war movie guy to begin with, and Saving Private Ryan is. I mean, it's so like. It takes such a mental toll on you. I guess is the right way I'm trying to say here. It's a lot. Mm-hmm. It's a lot, and not that that's a bad thing. It's just I don't love war movies to begin with, just because they're always sort of like. Not the same, but they're always depressing.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's just hard to tell like an uplifting story around war.
Yeah,
because war is the most devastating thing.
These stories need to be told. Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, to its credit, it is like one of the most accurate war movies ever. I mean, like veterans watched this and said like, "Oh yeah, this is just."
The opening scene of Saving Private Ryan is
it's incredible.
It's incredible, and it's one of the most difficult movies openings to get through. Absolutely,
Definitely.
without doubt. But movie's fantastic. Vin Diesel is sneakily in it, which I forgot. Tom Hanks is great in it.
Just happens to run into Silence of
the Lambs. I mean,
Anthony Hopkins
again, one of the best acting performances of all time.
Heath Ledger, yeah, absolutely. And Jodie Foster is also phenomenal. Like the scene with her and Buffalo Bill. I mean, people talk all they want about Anthony Hopkins, and it's granted, but don't forget about Jodie Foster. She is amazing in this.
She's amazing. Yeah, I mean, those two give probably some of the best, co-lead acting performances. I mean, strongest. It's amazing how well acted that movie is, and then just. The plot is amazing.
Yeah.
The whole storyline is great. If you haven't seen Silence of the Lambs, go watch it. It's great. Anthony Hopkins is one of the best actors of our lifetimes, but he gives maybe his best performance in this movie.
Yes, I would agree.
Okay. 5 versus 12.
Here. Yeah. So this I think is probably the hardest one for me to pick.
Wow.
On this side of the bracket, it looks like. We have The Empire Strikes Back at the 5 seed versus Psycho at the 12, and I'm gonna go Empire Strikes Back. But Psycho is so phenomenal and just groundbreaking for. I mean, it created like the
genre. Creates a genre.
Right? Yeah, it creates a genre. And it not only does that, it studies like the mind and it's like split. I mean, it's
the influence of Psycho. Like, I mean, half the movies on this list don't exist because of Psycho. Is like. With the beauty of that movie. I mean, it's great. It's a great story. One of the greatest twists in all of movie history too.
I would agree.
If you haven't had it spoiled for you, go watch it. It's great. But yeah, I'm going Empire Strikes Back over Psycho 2. But again, that 5-12 that's a tough matchup.
Both of them. I mean,
both of them.
We had The Lion King lose earlier, but Psycho. I mean, those two are. It's tough, but
Yeah.
Empire Strikes Back is there for a reason.
Empire Strikes Back is great.
I mean, yeah, everybody loves that.
Sure.
You know?
And then speaking of Empire Strikes Back, perfect transition. The 4 versus 13. The 4 seed is the movie we talked about last week, Dune Part 2.
Yeah.
Currently number 14 on IMDb's top 250, which is shocking and
justified. I mean,
I think justified and well deserved. And that's going against number 13, The Departed, number 40 in IMDb's top 250. Nick, I want to hear your thoughts on this one. This is we're right in your wheelhouse, I feel like.
Yeah. So these are I mean I love both of these movies. We talked for a while last week about Dune 2. I think it's a phenomenal movie. That being said, The Departed is I think a decent. At least for me, I like The Departed a decent bit better than Dune Part 2. So
sure.
13 seed upsets 4 for me.
Okay, I am going to go Dune Part 2.
Okay.
And The Departed is fantastic. It's great, but I really, really want to see Dune Part 2 play Empire Strikes Back. That's part of it too.
That's fair.
That's fair because all of those comparisons have been made already. Dune Part 2, I've seen it. We talked about all this last week, so we won't talk about it. But I've seen it twice, both in IMAX. Nick's seen it twice. It's fantastic. It's people want to say Empire Strikes Back of this generation. Might as well. I mean, very well could be. We'll see how it holds up in the next coming weeks and years. But yeah, I'm going Dune Part 2. Loved it. I thought it was great. But if you want to hear more about Dune Part 2, we talked about it all last week, and we'll get those episodes live, or we'll get those episodes uploaded eventually. I promise. But yeah, I'm going Dune Part 2 there.
Yeah. I mean, talked a lot about it. Dune Part 2 is amazing. The Departed for me is, that's like one of the first
great
movies
ending.
I remember watching where I was like, wow, that's special afterwards. So it holds a special place in my heart. Scorsese just does his thing. Only movie he's ever won for. Also, so,
crazy.
Which
we talked about last
week.
week.
Sound real. But I mean, Jack Nicholson, Leo, Matt Damon, everyone. And the cast is phenomenal.
It's great.
The story's
Mark
great.
Wahlberg.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure if I was from Boston, this is probably switched with Goodfellas for my favorite movie of all time. I don't think there's much else to be said here. But this matchup upcoming.
The 6-11 is great.
Is insane.
This is great.
Cuckoo's Nest at 6 versus Parasite at 11.
I was surprised Parasite was number 40. I feel like it should be way higher.
I thought it was going to be higher too. And
which
I'm going to have it move on here. And I love One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, but the Parasite. I mean, to me, that's up there with and how good like the production and writing and just everything that goes into a movie.
Pace,
it's up
everything.
there with Shawshank and The Godfathers for me at least. So yeah, I'm gonna have Parasite take down Cuckoo's Nest. How about you, Dom?
This is the matchup I've struggled with the most, I think.
Yeah.
Because I just watched Parasite for the first time this in the past 6 months, and it obviously blew me away. It's crazy plot, crazy pacing, crazy ending. It's a great movie. I've seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 times. I love One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I'm gonna go One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest just because it's so good. I love the environment and the sort of situation everything's in. It's so good. Nurse Ratched, again, I forget that actress, but she puts on a great performance as one of the most evil people ever.
One of the best villains ever.
I love that movie. So I'm gonna move on with One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, but my head says Parasite, but my heart says Cuckoo's Nest.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, I watched actually One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest for the first time in high school in junior English because we read the book. Shout out Mr. Sands. But I mean, it is a special movie. But Parasite is just another animal for me. So
yeah.
Let's move on here to another interesting matchup. We have Forrest Gump as the 3 seed taking on Whiplash as the 14.
Forrest Gump to me is 3 seed for Forrest Gump. That's a 6 seed.
Yeah, I agree. Switch that in Cuckoo's Nest. Come on.
No, but
no,
Forrest Gump's great, and this is a game I wouldn't watch. I like Forrest Gump and I like Whiplash, but I don't love either one of these that much. I'm gonna go Forrest Gump. I think you're higher on Whiplash than I am.
I am gonna go Whiplash, and Whiplash is a talented 14 seed here, definitely, but it's definitely where it should be placed. I think, in my opinion. Forrest Gump, yeah, I mean it's great, but it's not anything that's blows me away.
No,
I feel it's a really nice story, and it's
just like a lovable, fun story.
Yeah, but I mean afterwards, I'm not really wanting any more. And
Jenny.
to its credit, Whiplash does a great job of just showing like the psyche of two crazy people.
J.K. Simmons in that is terrifying.
Yeah, talk about on a streak here of really, really good villains.
That's a theme here. I mean, good villains make a movie.
That's the recipe to success, I guess. But yeah, I'm gonna have Whiplash move on. Really, really interesting matchup next too. Interstellar versus A New Hope. This is great. This is a great.
I didn't even do these. I didn't do these matchups on purpose, but Interstellar playing A New Hope is perfect. That's a perfect matchup.
Mm-hmm.
Interstellar is a 7 seed, which feels like a crime to me.
A little low. Yeah, I could see that being as high as a 5, maybe even a 4.
I would give it like a 3. I love I just love Interstellar. Interstellar is probably like my favorite movie of all time. But Interstellar, I have Interstellar moving on.
I have Interstellar moving on as well.
But I mean, A New Hope is great.
Yeah.
I'm actually surprised A New Hope is this high. It's a 10 seed.
I mean, yeah, I think people have a special place in their heart for it. Kicked off a franchise that is probably like America's best story that we've ever written. So you can't discount the classics, but at the same time, Interstellar is a classic already. So I have that moving on here.
Okay. Then the last matchup from the round of 32, we get to the other Godfather. We get to the Godfather Part 2, and that's going off against Alien. I don't think there's much to be said here. Alien is great. It's a great thriller. It's a great sort of suspenseful movie, but it's very, very easily the Godfather Part 2.
Yeah, I'm actually not even very high on Alien. I did not really love that movie. I understand how good it is and important for the genre, but Godfather Part 2 kind of clearly moves on here for me. I mean, we talked a little bit about the Godfather Part 2 with the Godfather.
Duke versus Stetson here.
It's the continuation of probably the other best story we've ever written. So, Godfather Part 2 moves on pretty easily here.
Okay. So that was the round of 32.
Yeah, that's the round of 32. And, I mean, great tournament so far. Really excited to see what we do next. I mean, just looking at some of these matchups, Dom, you have Dune Part 2 versus Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, we're going to take a quick 30-second break here on V89.1 The Roar, but we'll be back just after this quick messages from our ads. But continue listening because we'll get to a champion. We'll get to that champion pretty fast because we kind of detailed most of these movies.
Villanova University's WXVU Villanova, serving the main line, including Montgomery, Delaware, and Chester counties at 89.1 on your FM dial. We're streaming online at our website, wxvu.org. Nominated for Best Radio Station Imaging at this year's National Student Production Awards, we are V89.1 The Roar.
Welcome back to the two-man show here on V89.1 The Roar. I'm Dominic Richetti, joined alongside Nick Caruso, and we're filling out our brackets here of the top 250 IMDb movies. The first round was intense, a lot of good matchups, and we're going to sort of run through the round 16, the Elite Eight, then the Final Four. We'll put an emphasis on the Final Four, but quickly, I'll just go matchup by matchup for me, and then Nick will do his matchup by matchup because we have a little bit different brackets. Mm-hmm. I believe our first round is this. Or no, our first round is actually different. So my first Sweet 16 matchup is. I'm sorry, this is my first. First Sweet 16 matchup is Shawshank Redemption versus Wonderful Life. I'm going Shawshank. Pretty easy for me. Perfect movie. After that, I have Inception versus Fight Club. This is a really, really fun one. Inception versus Fight Club is really, really fun. Mm-hmm. Inception a 5 seed, Fight Club a 4. I'm going to move on with Fight Club. I love Fight Club. It's great. I love Brad Pitt. I love Edward Norton in that. Shout out to Meatloaf. Paradise with the Dashboard Light's a great song. R.I.P. He just died like 2 years ago. After that, I have Goodfellas versus Prestige. This is hard. I'm going to continue with Goodfellas just because I know how good Goodfellas is. And of course, it's beautiful as well. So Goodfellas does beat out Prestige. Goodfellas is a 6 seed and upsets, or not upsets actually, because the Prestige was a 14 seed, but beats the Prestige. And then in the bottom of my left-handed bracket, I have Back to the Future against The Dark Knight. I'm going to move on with The Dark Knight beating the 10 seed of Back to the Future. So the 2 seed moves on. And then the other side of my bracket, I have The Godfather going off against Silence of the Lambs. It's a close one for me, actually. I love both of those movies. Again, Godfather's always going to be hard to beat no matter where you're playing them. So Godfather moves on for me. After that, I have The Empire Strikes Back versus Dune Part 2. And this is the matchup of the round. I mean, these are 2 excellent sequels to 2 excellent sci-fi franchises. The comparisons have been made. Dune Part 2 just coming out. Empire Strikes Back A classic movie of, Nick said it, one of the best stories ever written here in terms of movies. So I am actually going to stick with what I know is the better movie. Empire Strikes Back is going to move on for me. Can't beat it. It's the best Star Wars movie as well. After that, I've One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest versus Forrest Gump. Again, this is a fun matchup because these, again, they're similar movies, focusing on sort of like a man struggling with his identity a little bit. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest here. Again, pretty easy for me. I'm not that high on Forrest Gump. I love Forrest Gump. It's a movie, again, similar. If it's on cable, I'll throw it on just because it's appreciative. It's always a good and fun watch. And then my last matchup from this round, I have Interstellar against The Godfather Part 2. And we have an upset. I have 7-seed Interstellar beating The Godfather Part 2. I don't love The Godfather Part 2 as much as I love The Godfather 1. It's a great movie, but Interstellar is always going to be at the top of my list all the time. Nick, let's hear your matchups.
So just taking from the top, Shawshank versus Green Mile. Don't have to spend much time on this one. This is Shawshank. Then we have Inception versus Fight Club. I'm actually going to go different from here, Dom. I'm gonna have Inception move past Fight Club. I love both movies. Inception does a little bit better of a job, I think. Just edges them out. Next we got Prestige versus Goodfellas. Another one I don't have to spend too much time on. Goodfellas kind of clearly takes that for me. Then Seven versus Dark Knight is a great matchup down here. Great matchup.
And similar vibes too.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely the matchup of the Sweet 16 on the left side of the bracket here. I am gonna have the Dark Knight move past Seven. Tough loss for Seven. Came up close, but just didn't quite edge out the Dark Knight. And on the other side, we have Godfather vs. Silence of the Lambs. Great 1 versus 8 seed here. Godfather is going to get it done, but I mean,
that's a close one too. I had that same matchup.
Can't say. Yeah, I mean, I have too many good things to say. Both sides. Godfather's too much of a classic, though. Then I'm going to also be different from you here. You had Part 2, but I'm going to have Empire Strikes Back.
No, I had Empire.
Get upset by The Departed in the second round here. Departed moves on. 13 seed takes them.
Wow,
Yep.
Cinderella.
Mm-hmm.
Cinderella.
Another little bit of a... Well, actually, no, this is an 11 versus 14 because Forrest Gump lost. But I'm going to have Parasite move past
Which is right.
Whiplash.
Yeah.
Definitely think Parasite deserves to be
Underseeded team for sure.
Yeah, and proving their worth in the tournament.
Absolutely.
And then this is the other... The two bottom matchups are really, really tough. Interstellar, Godfather 2. I'm going to take Godfather 2, which I feel like, I can't blame you either way. I know your favorite movie, probably.
I know.
Godfather Part 2, though. Oh, man. Can't really compete there. So, just briefly. So, now.
Wow, what a round, though.
Yeah,
this is going to keep getting harder and harder. Okay, so now we move into the Elite Eight, Nick. This is where.
So you still have Shawshank.
I still have Shawshank. This is the round where we move from legendary movies to the GOATs.
Yes.
This is where we move.
Yes.
And
exactly.
It's hard.
This is where the best separates
This is where the best separates themselves. My first round in the Elite Eight to move into the Final Four. I have Shawshank Redemption against Fight Club.
Mm-hmm. What do you have here?
I'm going to go Fight Club.
Wow. Shawshank
and not because I don't like Shawshank, not because Shawshank's the worst movie. In my bracket, I'm choosing Fight Club.
Okay.
Because it's so... Not that Shawshank's boring or repetitive or anything like that, because it's absolutely not. But I've seen it 1,000 times. And Fight Club excites me still. I love Fight Club. I'm going Fight Club over Shawshank.
I see your rationale. I don't have Fight Club here. I have Inception. Similar, though, in both... I'm going to have Shawshank move past here, get to the Final Four, but... Or no, not quite the
Final Four.
Shawshank just... It's gonna take a really special movie to beat Shawshank.
Yeah.
And Inception doesn't quite do it.
Okay.
Now moving to the bottom side.
Go ahead.
Here,
give your bottom.
I have Goodfellas versus The Dark Knight.
I have that as well.
You have that as well. Okay.
I have my answer, and I know you have yours. I know it's different.
I know it's different. All right. I have. That's pretty much spelled it out. But I have Goodfellas moving on.
Yeah. I have The Dark Knight, and
can't blame you.
It's a fun matchup.
Really fun.
It's a fun matchup, but I'm going Dark Knight.
High powered, a lot of offense in there. I can't blame you either way. Goodfellas is... Goodfellas is Goodfellas for me.
Goodfellas is Goodfellas.
Dark Knight, no slight on them, but...
Dark Knight's a Dark Knight. We're choosing GOATs. It's GOAT versus GOAT.
Exactly. You can't go wrong with that.
I had actually the on the graphic I put up, it was actually Dark Knight versus Shawshank, which was just like 1 and 2, and I just like, if this happens. Okay, top right now, still in the Elite Eight. I have Godfather versus Empire Strikes Back. You have...
Godfather versus The Departed.
Okay.
What do you have here?
Godfather's moving on for me.
Same as well. Yeah, I have Godfather moving on. I have the 2 1 seeds in the Final Four. A little bit boring, but I mean, they're going to struggle to lose.
Yeah.
The Departed, 2 mob movies going up, and just, New York edges out Boston. So, don't feel too bad about that.
All right.
Moving down to the bottom here, I have Parasite versus Godfather Part 2. What do you have over here?
In my bottom right, I have One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest versus Interstellar. Pretty easy for me. Interstellar, I love Interstellar. That's moved on for me. So a 7 seed in my Final Four is fun.
I'm going to have something similar with Parasite, the 11 seed,
Okay.
moving past Godfather Part 2.
Very good.
So this Final Four is
So talk about your 2 Final Four matchups and the teams in them.
Yep. Okay. So I have Shawshank Redemption versus Goodfellas on the left side, and Godfather Part 1 versus Parasite on the right side.
Okay, so we only have one movie and similar. We both have Godfather in our Final Four.
Okay.
That's it. So mine on my left side I have Fight Club versus The Dark Knight, and on my right side I have Godfather versus Interstellar. Wow, that's hard. Okay, so let's do it. Let's pick a championship here.
Yeah.
You want to go first?
I'm ready. Are you?
I give me 30. You go.
Okay. I mean, Shawshank versus Goodfellas. I was gonna take. I said it was going to take a good movie to knock off Shawshank, and Goodfellas is that movie to get it done. Moving on.
1-1 goes down.
1-1 goes down. 1-1 goes down. Goodfellas gets it done.
Moving on to the championship.
Yeah, going to the championship. And Shawshank, everyone was saying it was their year. Not me. Not me.
I mean, Shawshank's already out for me.
And then on the right side, I have The Godfather Part 1 versus Parasite, which is probably the closest matchup we've had so far, or at least I've had so far. I sat on this one. I'm going to go with The Godfather.
Okay.
It barely gets by Parasite. Yeah. Parasite, I mean, what a run from the 11 seed here. So I'm setting up the Battle of the Mob movies.
I just realized, you're setting the Battle of the Mob movies. I just realized what I set up in my championship.
All right, you want to elaborate?
It's the Nolan Bowl.
Whoa.
So my left side, I have Fight Club against The Dark Knight. Mm-hmm. I'm going to choose The Dark Knight here. Mm-hmm. I mean, Fight Club and Dark Knight, similar movies, mm-hmm. both dark and intriguing, but I'm going The Dark Knight. And on my other side, I have The Godfather against Interstellar. And I'm going to go Interstellar.
Godfather goes down.
The Godfather goes down. No more one seeds left. There's only 2, but it's hard. It's hard, and I have a Nolan final here.
So talk a little bit about your championship game here.
So my championship game is going to be The Dark Knight, a 2 seed from the left side against Interstellar, a 7 seed from the right side. So a fun matchup. I mean, everybody's bracket's busted at this point, absolutely, no question. Nobody had Interstellar making it this far except for your boy right here. But it's hard, and I'm ready to pick my champion because I think we both had predetermined champions a little bit. But my champion is going to be Interstellar, probably my favorite movie of all time. It's a great movie. Love Christopher Nolan. Clearly, I have The Dark Knight and Interstellar in my championship. But I'm happy with my winner. Interstellar is my winner of the top 250 IMDb movies. It's great. It's a great movie. It hits every time. I watched it on the plane back to America because I was sad to be leaving Europe. So I was like, what can I throw on to make me feel better? Let me see young Timothy Chalamet played and Casey Affleck playing the same character. Yeah. That was the funniest thing ever. Just context there. One of the first times Nick watched Interstellar, he thought Timothy Chalamet was Casey Affleck. He was like, that actor looks like Casey Affleck, and you hadn't seen it before yet.
First time I was watching it.
Yeah. Do you want to tell? You tell.
Yeah.
us.
So first time I was watching it. Timothy Chalamet is in the movie for like the first 45 minutes.
Yeah,
and he's playing a young Casey Affleck. And when I first saw him on screen, I didn't get a great look at him. I said, "Is that Casey Affleck? He looks young." And also, nobody said anything that I was watching it with. Nobody spoiled it for me. So
maybe I was the only one that had seen it by that.
Maybe, but when he finally grew up, I was like, "Oh my God, that is Casey Affleck." I
predicted it.
I was blown
Great
away.
casting. Great casting.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like I should have been involved. I mean, I clearly
you knew it.
Yeah,
all right, so that's my winner, Interstellar. Let's hear your championship.
I here have the Battle of the Mob movies, Goodfellas versus The Godfather, and I mean, I feel like this is also one of the most debated movies just in general because they're so obviously the best 2 mob movies. At least I think so. I think most people have the same opinion. Those are the best 2 if you had to pick. And Goodfellas is just going to take down The Godfather for me. So similar to you have a 7 seed as your champion. I have a 6. Nobody saw this coming. Bracket busted. But yeah, Goodfellas,
What a
I think,
tournament.
does a little bit better of a job at portraying the mob life in its true light. The Godfather is a great movie. It doesn't quite glorify the mob, but Goodfellas does so much to show how bad
Yeah.
the mob is, and I think that is just what gets it over the hump for me.
Wow. What a tournament. You know what? And Nick, I think I see more brackets in our future, regardless of March, just because they're so fun.
Yeah, I mean, we might have to make this a regular irregular occurrence.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, I
Okay,
gotta
so
take a deep breath after
one
that.
final time. My champion is Interstellar. Nick's champion is.
Goodfellas, which might have been a little bit of a predetermined thing, which
Yeah,
you mentioned
I mean,
already.
same
but,
with me,
I
right?
mean, we're gonna have our favorites as
Come
the
on now.
champions. Come on.
Come on now.
But yeah,
I mean, what a bracket. What a
Great
March Madness
tournament.
every year, doesn't it?
Oh, of course. I mean, why even watch what's on TV when you can listen to this?
All right. Wow, we had great show today.
Great show. I mean,
Before we wrap up,
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about everything. We started with Poor Things, moved into our top 5 basketball movies, and then ended off with a great March Madness bracket. And once again, if you guys want to fill out your own, follow us on Twitter at TwoMan Show WXVU, or that's on Instagram. Follow us on Instagram at TwoMan Show WXVU. We have that bracket posted on there. Fill out your own. Tag us in it if you want to post yours. Please do that. But I mean, it was fun. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll be back. Actually, we won't be. We're off next Thursday.
We're off next
So
Thursday.
we'll be off next Thursday. But make sure to follow us on Instagram at TwoMan Show WXVU. We'll have updates about when our next show is going to be coming. It'll probably be the week after that. So what's that? Not the 28th. So April 3rd or 4th, whatever day of the week that is. So not next Thursday. Thursday after that, we'll have another show. We'll probably think about what we'll watch, but we'll probably tease out on our Instagram early what movie we'll both try to watch probably over break. But it's gonna be a fun show. Another great show from Nick and I. So this has been the Two-Man Show here on V89.1 The Roar. For Dominic Richetti, that's Nick Caruso signing off. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Thanks everybody listening. Go Cats.